In this week's Torah portion, both the Maggid of Zlotchov and Rabbi Yaakov Abuhatzeira, they see in the scene where Eliezer, Avram's servant, goes to find a bride for Isaac. They see in this whole scene hints to how one should come and learn Torah and the importance of learning Torah. So we'll start with the Maggid of Zlotchov. The Maggid of Zlotchov, he notices that the servant, Eliezer, we're told in one verse that he comes and he's standing upon a well where there's water. And then he says, and then the text tells us that Eliezer says to God, look, I'm standing here upon the water. And the Maggid says, why the repetition? Right? The Torah doesn't go over stuff twice for no reason. We already know you're at the edge of the water. Surely God knows. Why do you have to come and say Eliezer? Because he's asking God, help me. Why say again I'm at the edge of the water? What does this help us? And he says this comes to show that Eliezer was actually humble. And he knew that he wasn't worthy of God helping him, even though there was Abraham. And so he stood at the edge of the water, because water is a pure place where there's Shekhinah, where sort of divine providence lies. And he knew that if he was to stand there, that's the source of where all purity comes from. That's his best hope. Now the Maggid of Zlotchov then adds and says, for us abroad, right, we're living in Eastern Galicia, it's not like living in Israel where you have God everywhere. Abroad you have to go to the source of purity, you have to go to the well. And then he says, and what is the well? Make no mistake, it's not the well where Eliezer was. What is also water? The Torah. Study Torah, and that's the way you're going to find God. So that's the Maggid of Zlotchov, this beautiful interpretation of looking at the text, explaining a double reference to water. Now, Rabbi Yaakov Abuhatzeira, he sees the scene, the same scene where Eliezer now sees this beautiful girl. He sees this beautiful girl, so she looks so good, and she's running towards him. And Rabbi Yaakov says, he quotes the Zohar, that says, we could understand all of this. No, he starts off by saying we could understand all of this scene to be likened to the way one should study Torah. And how is this? He says, so he quotes the Zohar that says, how does it work when you come and study Torah? It's like there's this beautiful woman, it's like a first date, except it's a hard to get sort of first date. There's this beautiful woman behind the door. She's not willing to see you. She's willing to talk to you from behind the door. And so you're standing there, you're talking to this pretty girl. You don't know what she looks like, but you've been told she's pretty, that she's nice, that she's kind. And at first, the first date, you're just talking and she's behind the door. But then she sees that you're willing to stay there and talk to her simply because you want to enjoy her company, even though you don't get to see her. So she starts giving you clues about what she looks like, where she comes from, who she is, right? So the first stage is the pshat, the simple meaning of the Torah. If you're willing to hang on, the Torah is then going to reveal to us the hints, the sort of, alluding to secrets. And then, if we're really good boys and girls, then she's going to come out and see us. And this is the drush, the midrash, right? The sort of story in between the lines. And then, if we still endure and we're still there and we want it, then what does she do? Then she pours out from her vase, from her kad, water, and gives it to Eliezer, gives us the water. And what's the water? The secrets. And what is kad? Kad is 24. There are 24 books in the Bible, Rabbi Yaakov Abuhatzeira says, and says this is the peak. When in the scene when Rachel comes and gives when Rivka comes and gives Eliezer from her vase, from the kad, water, this is the peak of studying Torah. She's willing to reveal the secrets within the 24 books of the Torah, and then you're a happy person. Thoughts on the Torah portion of, what is the Torah portion? Of Hayeyi Sarah, and beautiful interpretations to how to view the Torah through this scene. Shabbat Shalom.